Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Good, good. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start with just some poll everywhere questions. So here's the link again, and I'll go ahead and activate where we're at. Share the screen. Oh. All right. I would say that's kind of where I'm at today too, kind of in between meh to good. So awesome. We'll give it just one more minute here, see if anybody else chimes in or comes into the waiting room. All right. All righty, guys. Well, thank you for participating in that poll. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next question. Just want to kind of get a feel for how you guys are feeling about the project that is due on April 30th. So just want to know where you're at here. So have you not opened the assignment? You've made the decision to either do individual or as a group. You've outlined requirements, or best case scenario, your project is already done. You just need to submit it. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys for that. It looks like most everybody is at least figured out if they're going to do it individually or as part of a group. I'm curious, and you guys can just put it in the chat or you can speak up. Are any of you guys planning to do this as a group? Okay, a couple are. Okay, good deal. Awesome. All right, well, just keep that date in mind, guys. The 30th is coming up really soon. So we're essentially 4.5 weeks away from this project being due. So please don't procrastinate. Please just stay steadfast and work through those scenarios and those requirements. So we don't want to leave this one till the night before. All right, next question for you guys. This one is actually off of the quiz. So it was the one that actually had the a little bit of an issue, I think, because the report back was that only about 50% of the class actually got this question. And so first of all, let's go ahead and answer it. So explain the proposed mechanism of anestrus in the U. So seasonal anestrus is explained by which choice here? The U does not exhibit seasonal anestrus, decreasing melatonin, causing decreased GnRH levels, increasing melatonin, causing increased GnRH levels, and melatonin has nothing to do with it. So those are your 4 choices. All right, so I'm going to give you guys just another about 45 seconds here.
Hey Casey, it says the polling is not turned on when we go to answer it.
Okay. Interesting. Because it didn't save my stuff. Okay. What about now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay. All right, so we'll reset the clock. We'll give you guys about 35 to 40 seconds here. All right, let's go ahead and get those answers in, guys. Okay, we'll lock these in. All right, so if you guys picked B here, or the second choice, decreasing melatonin actually causes decreased GnRH levels, then you are correct. So I think that one of the issues here is that we're just not fully understanding the question, and you guys can chime in and confirm or deny that for me. But the question is actually asking, how does seasonal anestrus begin? It's not the opposite of that, how an animal comes out of anestrus. And so this was a little bit of a critical thinking question, because the lecture actually presented how females come into cyclicity from anestrus, not necessarily how they go out. And so I just want to jump back through the PowerPoint really quickly and make sure we're all on the same page with that. There we go. I don't want that one. Okay, so we'll just work off of this slide here. So with seasonal anestrus, first of all, ewes are definitely seasonal anestrus. Sheep in general are seasonal anestrus. Within the ovine species, there's going to be some breeds that are more susceptible and have bigger reactions to seasonality than others. So for example, with white-faced sheep, they don't necessarily have as big of a response of seasonality compared to our black-faced sheep, like Suffolks and Hampshires. And so we can see the white-faced sheep breeds be more polyestrous than seasonal anestrus. And so sheep are a little bit of a conundrum, but for the most part, sheep are going to be seasonal or have seasonality associated with their estrus cycles. So first of all, the way that the first step that I would suggest making sure that you have a good hold on this is that if we have long photo periods, meaning that there's more light than dark during the day, like we're going into right now with springtime, that needs to be associated with no cyclicity in our the majority of our sheep species. Okay, so if we have longer days but shorter nights, sheep are not going to cycle. And so the reason for this is because with longer day length, that is going to be received in the nervous system of the eye. And those longer day length messages are then going to be transmitted to the suprachiastic nucleus. Okay, and this is going to be really closely associated with the hypothalamus part of the lower part of the brain. So once that message is received at the suprachiastic nucleus, then what ends up happening is that the next neuron will grab that message and transfer it to the superior cervical ganglion, which is another set of neurons in the brain. And then that ganglion will translate the message up to the pineal gland. And so the pineal gland is not part of the hypothalamus. It is a different anatomical structure in the brain. And the pineal gland has cell bodies in it that we call pinealocytes. And these pinealocytes are going to produce a couple of different types of hormones. So they are going to produce norepinephrine, melatonin, serotonin, especially things that are associated with like mood enhancement and stuff. And so when we have large amounts of daylight or we have longer days, like in the springtime, there's going to be less melatonin that is going to be produced from the pineal gland in the sheep. That low melatonin level is then going to transfer its message to the RFRP neurons. There's a few different types of those neurons. And in our short day breeders, they interpret this longer daylight period with by producing lower amounts of kisspeptin 10, lower amounts of GnRH, lower amounts of FSH and LH. Therefore, that female doesn't cycle. Okay, so in periods of anestrus, that is going to occur during the longer daylight periods in our sheep species. Okay, and so the answer to that question then becomes decreasing melatonin causes GnRH levels. So as we go back to this figure here, our low melatonin levels are going to be coming out of that pineal gland. So low melatonin, low kisspeptin, low GnRH, low FSH and LH equals no cyclicity in the sheep. All right, so how do we feel about that? Is everybody comfortable with that answer now? Okay, one thumbs up, great. All right, let me jump back over here. Okay, last question for you guys on Poll Everywhere. Hopefully it saved my stuff. Okay. A fertility window of 24 hours is indicative of which cycle, the menstrual cycle or the estrus cycle? Okay, give you about 20 more seconds to answer here. This one's pretty straightforward. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get those answers submitted. We will lock them in and show responses. Okay, so a fertility window of 24 hours is actually more associated with the estrus cycle and not the menstrual cycle. Okay, and so this goes back to the chart in I'll pull it back up here in the lecture. So this chart here. So if we look at this fertile period of 24 hours or less, that's associated with the estrous cycle. Keep in mind that humans, that especially females that are going to go through the menstrual cycle during their fertility lifetime, they are actually fertile each cycle up to about 6 days before ovulation takes place. So they actually are fertile for about 18% of the cycle rather than the normal 5% of the cycle in the livestock species. So things to make sure that you understand. I wish they would teach this in high school, but they do not. So, okay, cool. That was my last poll everywhere question. I think should be. Yep. All right. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and actually create kind of an open-ended spot for you guys to put any comments in or questions that you have about chapter 7. All right, and so let me get this up and going. Okay, so on that same poll everywhere link, the question that is active now is what questions do you have about chapter 7 or cyclicity? Okay, and so I'm going to just leave that kind of going in the background. I'm going to cover a couple of other things and then I'll come back and check that. So as you have questions come up, feel free to put that in there. It's totally anonymous. And so I just want to make sure that we're answering all of your questions about cyclicity, because it really sets the foundation and the starting point for diving more deeply into the two aspects of female cyclicity, or the female estrous cycle, which is the luteal phase and the follicular phase. All right, so I'll leave that up and going in the background, and I'm going to go ahead and switch gears. We'll go look at Blackboard just to make sure everybody is on track with what is coming up. So again, the semester project module is right underneath the Start Here module. In that module, you will see the actual assignment that was detailed out a few weeks ago in the Zoom lecture. There are some example business plans in here that have some elements of and can be an example for those assignments. And then this submission link is also in this module as well. When we go back to the Start Here module, we are down here in week number 9. So this last week of March, first week of April, we are going to be tackling chapter 8. Okay, so chapter 8 is the new material here. And so we've got a quiz that is due on Friday by end of day. And because the two aspects or because all of these chapters build upon themselves, the material really will be over chapter 7 and chapter 8 on the quiz. Okay, so just be prepared for that. So you're really looking at 2 chapters. In this module, you've got your note guide for the follicular phase, and then you've got 3 video lectures about the follicular phase. So we're really looking at the shorter part of the phase in our livestock species, where that oocyte is maturing, it's being recruited, it's growing, getting bigger, and it's being housed within that follicle that becomes dominant on the ovary. And the follicular phase will also take us through the ovulation process. And ovulation absolutely is a process. It's not just like a light switch where you turn it on and it's done. There's a lot of things that go into that pre-ovulatory LH surge. And then there's several components that LH actually controls associated with the follicle so that ovulation can happen. And so spend some extra time looking at ovulation this week. And the quiz is going to be over chapters 7 and 8, and again is due by the end of day on this Friday, April 2nd. It's hard to believe we're already into April. Okay, so that is what is going on this week. Semester project this week. Just kind of general announcements. If you guys are not graduating in May and are looking at coming back in the fall semester, mandatory advising for ag education and animal science is going to start this week. I think it actually may be next week officially, but a lot of advisors are already starting. So just be on the lookout for announcements from your advisors for to schedule advising sessions and stuff. Registration for fall classes begins on April 26th. So keep that date in mind as well. Okay. I think that was all I had today. So let me jump back and look at any other questions that you have here. Okay, no questions. Cool. Chapter 7 helped you understand chapter 5. Absolutely. Once we can kind of put in context what the endocrinology is doing, what the hormones are doing, it really helps to kind of cement some of those early foundational principles about those hormones. So like our steroid hormones, they're going to be primarily driving the estrous cycle. And so there's going to be different aspects and different ways that they interact with not only tissues, but with other hormones as well. So I'm happy to hear that. All right, cool. Well, it doesn't look like you guys have any burning questions about chapter 7. Do you feel like you're pretty set with where we're headed this week and what you need to do? Feel free to just give me a thumbs up or speak up, whatever. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, was what I wanted to kind of go over today. I'm happy to stay on and answer any questions that you have. But if you guys are feeling good about stuff, I will just plan on seeing you in a week. So have a good week.
Bye. Thank you, Dr. Dialli.
Thank you.